about to rock. Holy crap. We need to go find a party now. So it's 1982-ish, I think, probably at this point. I'm 13 years old. I've heard of AC/DC already. Had some friends with older sisters and brothers that had the Back in Black. That's the first, I think the very first song I ever heard on a boombox was Back in Black. And, but it was out of reach. These were older kids' songs. This was an older kids' band. But by the time we got to 1982, I'd say the summer, fall, no, definitely the fall of 82. I'm 13 now. And a buddy had I think it was an older brother that had this album on vinyl. And he convinced him to let me borrow it. So I took the For Those About to Rock album home. You know, the famous one with the cannon on the front, probably right here. And it was like sneaking in something to the house that wasn't supposed to be there. Don't get me wrong, my parents were music fans. They were certainly not prudish. They would crank the stereo up with the best of them, but AC/DC was not their thing. So yeah, I remember it was like doing something a little naughty. I put at the time there was nobody home, right? Gen X kid, nobody home. Both parents were out. And I put the needle down on this thing, and the title track came out. And it just felt, again, like it felt like I was now part of the grown-up crew. I was listening to something that my parents probably weren't big fans of me listening to at the time. And it became a running joke years later as I got older into my 20s and 30s that, especially with my mom, she'd go, you know, I can't believe you're still listening to AC/DC. And I go, well, you know, they're still doing it. And let's just hope in 2024 they actually have a tour. People are sniffing around. Maybe they'll have a tour this year. If they do, fantastic. It'll be a lot of fun. What else about AC/DC? Yeah, these guys were they were played at every high school party. They were just part of the fabric of our high school lives. Right? Couldn't miss a t-shirt with AC/DC. You knew what kids went to the concert the night before based on what they brought home with the 3/4 sleeve baseball jersey AC/DC shirts. I had one at one time, and yeah, I'm not proud. There's some girl in Pennsylvania that I met when I was after senior year and whatever. She wound up with my t-shirt. That was from the Who Made Who tour. That was the only time I saw them live, was with the Who Made Who tour. Saw them at the Worcester Centrum. Band called Loudness opened up for them. Neither here nor there. So yeah, AC/DC's been around a long time in my life. You've got a bunch of these MP3 files, and this particular one, I did go out and buy the high-res one because it was just one of my favorite, if not my favorite. It's hard to choose a favorite AC/DC song, right? Or rather album, but this one's right up there. And certainly after going through this process of listening to it from front to back, yeah, I may actually have to consider going vinyl as well. We'll go and talk about that later on in the episode. But yeah, for a kid of 13 years old, bringing AC/DC into the house, dropping the needle on, and hearing that first song with the cannons and the whole 9 yards, man, life was about to change, and change in a good way it did. Thank you, AC/DC. AC/DC, For Those About to Rock. My gosh, was this fun. I don't think I've listened to this entire album from first song to last song in 30 years? Way too long, way too long. Anyway, so yes, we are here to discuss AC/DC's eighth studio album, For Those About to Rock. This was the second with Brian Johnson. First one being Back in Black, the previous album that broke all sorts of records. And it was recorded between May and September 1981, and it was recorded in Paris, France. This was the last of 3 albums that was produced by Mutt Lange. I'm sure you've heard of Mutt Lange before. He's been associated with Def Leppard, amongst other bands. This was the first album to actually reach #1 in the United States. It was done one more time, I think, in 2008 with another album, but this was the first one to reach #1 in the US. It was released November 20th, 1981. So, a couple things. We're going to compare the MP3 16-bit 44K file against the 24-bit 96K high-res file, and what the differences are between the two. We'll go through a couple of songs, pull out a couple instances that are really more prevalent on the high-res file, and we'll give the final thoughts at the end. Okay? All right, a couple things to notice. So for those that don't know, it's being recorded. Both files are being served up through the computer, through my DAC, which is a Denafrips Aries 2 DAC, going through a Rotel A11 Tribute amp out these Wharfedale Denton 85th Anniversary Edition speakers. And just as a side note, these speakers loved this album. Loved it. Both, the decibel levels are both about the same on this. The MP3 I listened to first. I did this about 3 times. MP3, and then I would listen to the high-res file once entirely through, and then I started going through individual songs to kind of pull out what some of the biggest differences were. So on the Rotel, I set it to 65, the volume up to 65, and that was giving me about an average of 81 to 82 decibels of listening. The speakers are 10.5 feet apart. I'm 10.5 feet away listening to them. And yes, they were pushing about 82 dBs. Put on the 24-bit, I didn't have to move the volume dial. It was about the same, about 82, maybe a little bit, maybe bumping up about 1 dB, but that was about it. Really wasn't noticeable from a volume perspective. The sound stage on the MP3 was on average about 3 feet, on average about 3 feet higher than the center speaker, in the center channel, about 3 feet higher than the tweeters over here. And they were about 2 to 3 feet outside the speakers. And if you were looking at kind of visualizing an arc, right, it wasn't flat line ahead of you. The sound did come out, on a soft U shape. So if you were sitting here and you were looking, again, that 2 to 3 feet outside the speakers left and right respectively, closing your eyes, they felt like, they were coming out a little bit into the room as well. So a very shallow arc, so to speak. Now, that changed pretty dramatically on the 24-bit file. The 24-bit, on the MP3, I'll go back one more time. On the MP3, the imaging was pretty good. The instruments were fairly locked into place. Didn't have any issues there. Maybe it lacked a little bit on some of the depth. You didn't have a lot going on as far as depth perception goes. They had good bass and treble response on the MP3 file. It was fun. It sounds like that MP3 file, sounded pretty darn good going through this system. Or anybody else's modestly built hi-fi system. It's going to sound pretty good, especially if you haven't heard it for a while and your toes are tapping and your feet are going up and down. What I will say about the 24-bit file, though, is that arc, right, that we were talking about. Now it wasn't stopping at the 2 to 3 feet mark. It was actually coming into the room more. Not 180 degrees. So I wouldn't say it was coming to here, but it was coming, a good 60 degrees plus into the room, and the soundstage was a good 5 feet outside the speakers. As far as center channel goes, it got upwards of about 4 to 5 feet above the tweeters here, okay, in the center of the room, in the center image. The imaging was much more crisp on the 24-bit. Wasn't even close, to be honest with you. The vocal imaging was definitely more locked in. On the MP3 file, you get a little bit of fogginess with that center image with Brian's vocals. You had to kind of lean in a little bit more. After hearing the high-res file, you had to lean in a little bit more because, again, that 24-bit file, vocals, the center image was locked. It was locked into place, and everything was that much more separated, that much more crispy, definitely isolated more. And you did have more depth as well. So we'll talk in a couple different songs. I could hear background vocals that I really never picked up on before. Certainly, listening to this in the car stereo or at a party as a kid, or on the boombox or something like that. Now you could definitely hear more of the backing vocals on the 24-bit file. All right, let's. And another thing I'll say is you've heard more reverb. Definitely heard more reverb, on purpose reverb in the mix. Bow, 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 down, down, down. Right? Something like that? Yeah. For those about to rock, holy crap. This title track, right away, you know that the 24-bit is the file to go to. Immediately, bigger in the room, like I said in the intro, it's curving around you. That intro of Angus is that famous effing intro. It sounded like, I won't say a blanket was removed off the speakers, but definitely a sheet was lifted off the speakers and the air in the room breathed. Yeah, right away you knew this was going to be a fun ride, and it was juicier and just overall better experience right from the first 12 measures of the song. Good stuff, really good stuff. What more can you say about the title track? All right, the second song on the album is Put the Finger on You. I put here, Party Mode. Yeah, the intro on the high-res file, it's like punching in party mode on your amp. Yeah, it was instantly the head started bobbing, right? It felt like, I used a reference to a sheet, I've used a reference to a blanket. It felt like the blinds were being open on this song and letting the light in. That was the difference between the 16-bit MP3 file and the 24-bit 96K high-res file. Great cymbals coming out of the right-hand channel. It's just, the cymbal crashes were intense and very realistic. And again, this system was loving it. Let's Get It Up. Full sound on both MP3 and 24-bit. It's just, it's right there in your face. The vocals go from about 2.5 feet to 3 feet center image. On the 24-bit file, it was 3.5 to 4 feet higher. So another good foot on average, rather, from that center channel. And then obviously going left to right. It's, like I said in the intro, the 24-bit file is just bigger all the way around. The vocals are more locked in on the center image. You could really focus on that on this particular song. I know I mentioned that earlier, but this was one of the songs that you really do notice that Brian wasn't moving around. It wasn't foggy. It was laser focused right in the center channel. Yeah, the 24-bit I wrote here, it's buttery, it's warm. Again, coming out of these Wharfedale speakers. Yeah, this made it sound like it was 1982 again, and you were listening to this on your buddy's record player. Or if you were lucky enough to listen to it at somebody's house where their parents were gone and you were listening to it on their system. Yeah, this was full of just savory goodness coming out of the speakers on this particular song. So that's Let's Get It Up, which rolls right into Inject the Venom. At the 16-second mark, right, when Brian goes, no mercy for the bad if they want it. You're going from a 3-foot center channel vocal to a 4.5-foot Brian. It's more Brian. He's right there. No mercy for the bad if they want it. Just good stuff. He's right there. It's it's different. It's like forget about being between the studio and the sound room now. You're right there in the studio. The amps they feel like they're breathing. Angus's amp is right there on the floor on the right, and it feels like it's right there and breathing in front of you, 10 feet away. Great stuff. At the 203 mark, the lead guitar on the MP3 file, okay? At the 203 mark, lead guitar is hovering right around 1.5 feet center channel. And then what I put with the high res file, the 24-bit file, it sounds like a 3D movie. That guitar is just, 3D movie, right? The crap's coming right out at you. Well, that's the way this guitar felt like. At 2.5 feet, it was coming right out at you. More backing vocals came through on the 24-bit too. I didn't really notice a lot of backing vocals historically, or certainly on the MP3 file, but I'm like, damn, they've got a lot of backing vocals on this album, and certainly on this song you can hear it pretty good. Snowball, another reference to taking something off the speaker. I put it's like taking tissue paper, peeling the tissue paper right off your speakers. This one, the cymbals were crashing. They're coming through very realistic cymbals and big, right? They're hovering above the midpoint line of the tweeter and woofer. This was one of the ones that felt like it was surrounding you a bit more, right? That arc in front of you. So as you sit here and close your eyes, you're seeing that holographic image of the band, and it's not just on a flat wall. It's you can feel it coming around the sides of you. Very, very cool sensation that I did not get on the 16-bit, but got on the 24-bit. I just wrote, I forgot how much I like this song. There's a couple songs on here that we always hear on the radio. Title track, right? COD, Inject the Venom, maybe sometimes, but there are other ones that I haven't heard in such a long time because I haven't listened to the album from start to finish. And this one, and a couple more as well, but the Snowball, this is pretty good. And that goes right into the 6th song on the album, which is Evil Walks. First note here was the 24-bit is thick. It's better separation of the guitars. I wanted more. I couldn't get enough of this. You just feel, not that the 16-bit MP3 file is anemic, it's not, but the high-res file is just that much more realistic, that much more tactile. It's like you can feel it. And it was, the guitars were just thick. Coming in from the left and the right. Thick, fat, juicy. Angus's humbuckers coming out of that SG. Yeah, this is awesome. This is just Evil Walks, awesome. Had a lot of fun with this one. So again, first thing I wrote about COD, the 7th song on the album, effing awesome is what I wrote. Effing awesome. Center vocals are more locked in and bigger at 3 to 4 feet plus, right? Everything on the MP3 is a little bit more, I don't want to say compressed because it's not, it's a little compressed. But it's just a smaller soundstage. On the 24-bit, soundstage is bigger. Everything's bigger by a magnitude of about another third. I had just more punch. The dynamic range of the 24-bit file is palatable. You can feel it punching you in the chest. Yeah, much more visceral. I had a hard time staying in the chair. At this point, COD, a song that was one of my favorites growing up, one of the ones that I would queue up on this album if I'm at a party or something, I got a boombox at a barbecue or something. I'll pull up this song. Yeah, it sounded fantastic. Again, I mentioned it earlier, hearing this song, it's like, all right, man, I had a hard time staying in my chair. My head's bobbing up and down, my feet are tapping, and I'm like, you get that flashback sensation. All right, I got to get in the car, go meet my buddies at the gas station. Let's find out where the party is tonight. It's a Friday night, it's high school. Where's the party tonight? That's what this song reminded me of. What a flashback down memory lane. Great stuff. Breaking the Rules, the 8th song on the album. The 24-bit is just bigger all around. I know it's consistent with every other song on the album, going from MP3 to 24-bit high res. When the song starts, you get a I won't say guitar solo, but it's the guitar focused right in the beginning. Center channel, MP3. It's about 3 feet up above center. On the high res 24-bit file, it's 4 feet plus. And as soon as that guitar Angus pulls away on that, Brian's vocals come in and replace it right at the same level within the center image. Pretty cool, pretty cool. The ninth song, the ninth song, Night of the Long Knives. Weird, in the MP3 file, Angus was right up front pretty much the whole time. Didn't waver, almost like, it wasn't fake but sounding, but he was just, the rest of the sound stage is here and Angus is right up front the entire time. It just felt a little off, where when you get into the 24-bit, it was more realistic. He was layered in there with the rest of the band, and when they wanted to focus on Angus's guitar, they brought him up a little bit. Again, going back to that depth perception, which is quite a bit more visual when you close your eyes in this holographic nature of the soundstage. It was pretty good. If I'll go back, I'd say, as far as a holographic album goes, if I'm going to rate it 1 to 5, you may get it to be like almost a 2 on the MP3, where I said earlier, you're getting the imaging, you're not getting a lot of depth. But when you get to the 24-bit, you're pushing 3.5 to 4. It's not the best holographic audiophile album out there. No, it's a hell of a lot of fun, but you're definitely getting a lot more perception within the 24-bit. This was a blast. I can honestly say I've never had as much fun listening to this album, except perhaps that very first time, like I mentioned earlier, when I was sneaking it into my house and listening it to on the turntable while my parents were gone. The last thing I'll say about Night of the Long Knives, it was powerful, it was big, bigger than I recall hearing it. And again, one of those songs that I didn't listen to that often the last 30 years. When I was younger, yeah, listened to it quite a bit. And the last song, I have a word, spellbound, right? So I had this, don't hate on me. I'm a Boston Celtics fan, shocker, living in southern New Hampshire. And Tatum had this, going on a rant here. Tatum had a dunk or something, or I don't know. He had a great winning play, and they called it a mean mug. And he's like, just that look. And I'll put a picture of Tatum here, but I'm sitting here spellbound. I got that face the whole time, just head bobbing, foot tapping. Man, it was fantastic. The 24-bit, you sound like you're in the studio with the guys. It's great. The right channel, the amp is right there. Angus's amp's right there, and you can hear it crackling and breathing. The drums have much more dynamic range, much more punch, right into your chest compared to the MP3 file. At the 312 mark, when he goes, when Brian goes, I got my hands in the fire, right? The guitars are just more realistic. Everything is just, you get that look on your face, right? Awesome, awesome stuff. I was the most surprised with this song, Spellbound, after listening to the whole album. It was the most, it surprised me the most in a good way. I'm going to have to add that to some playlists for some of the barbecues we'll have this summer. Fantastic song, really fantastic. And so we go to the final thoughts here, and it's not going to be a shock, right? It wasn't even close. As soon as you put on the title track, you're looking for a party. You got that. The whole vibe is like, the 24-bit is just better. I don't know. It's another metaphor I can use. It's the difference between watching. It's the difference between watching a TV show on that standard definition TV in the 1980s compared to watching another TV show on a 4K TV today. It's just more of everything, and you knew it right away. There was no. I'd done a a previous review on Boston, right? Boston's first album. And it was a lot tougher to determine which one to go on that one. This one was easy. It was right out of the gate. You knew the 24-bit was going to be a better file. So, is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. The 24-bit 96K on HD tracks, where I buy pretty much all of my high-res files when I need to. The HD tracks file came at $20.99, so 21 bucks. The 16-bit MP3 file, you can download, in my case I was looking it up on Amazon Music, you can get that file for 10 bucks, $9.99. That's good. It's a good party. If you just need it for background music, go get yourself the, or hell, just stream it at that point, right? If you're gonna get a 16-bit, you might as well just stream it. And the vinyl on Amazon is $23.99. Now, I don't know enough on the release of the vinyl record. I don't know, I haven't done any research on the quality of it. For, $23.99, I'm not so sure that it's an all analog pressing. This would be one of the AC/DC albums that I will explore. Is it an all analog vinyl copy from start to finish? I don't know. If any of you guys do, put it in the comments. If you're a big AC/DC For Those About to Rock fan, how's it sound on vinyl? What are your thoughts on the vinyl release? The one you can get at the store today. The one that's $23.99. How is it? I'm very curious how it compares with the high-res file. For me, the high-res file was all I needed and then some. But since this is one of the AC/DC titles that I may want to explore further, maybe I will go and try to find what best pressing is for this particular record. The only thing I'll say, let's hope for a 2024 tour. Hearing a lot about that right now on the radio. I don't think they've announced anything yet. I know they've been kicking the tires on it for a little while. Last time I saw these guys was on the Who Made Who tour, a long time ago, and I'd love to see them again. So let's hope for a summer 2024 tour of AC/DC. That'd be great. Go out, buy yourself the high-res file. It's fantastic. I really can't speak highly enough about this one. I had a blast. I had a real hard time sitting in the chair, as I mentioned earlier. So I hope you like this type of content. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe button. It won't cost you anything. And if you don't like it later on, you can always unsubscribe. This has been a lot of fun for me, and hopefully this jogged a few memories for you Gen Xers out there as well. Where were you when you first heard this? Were you a kid like me who was bringing in this album kind of in secrecy, trying to hear what this AC/DC band's all about, make you feel older than you are? Yeah, do you remember all those house parties? Man, the 80s were the decade of the house party. I guess thankfully we don't do that anymore. You guys have the same type of memories there as well. I'd love to hear about it. Please put it in the comments. Take the opportunity to sit back, listen to a whole album from start to finish. Regardless if it's on a digital file like this or if you're spinning records and you have to get up and flip them. By listening to the whole album, you have to sit still and decompress from the day's events and do something for you. Not now, when, right? And now you may be hearing new things coming out of that same song. It's really what this channel's all about, is hearing things for the first time again, hearing your music that you've fallen in love with over the last however many decades, and falling in love with it all over again. Okay? Until the next video, hope to see you there. Thank you very much. Take care. Be good.